Welcome, B-Movie fans, to another B-Movie interview. I'm B-Movie Paul, and joining me today is the creator of the popular webcomic, miniseries, and soon-to-be movie, Zombie with a Shotgun, Hilton Ruiz. Hilton, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So, Zombie with a Shotgun, awesome title, by the way. Really catchy, kind of just gets right to the point. First, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project, like the general plot of Zombie with a Shotgun?
Absolutely. Well, we started about 4 years ago. I decided that I wanted to do my own zombie interpretation. So I decided, hey, you know what? The whole web series is getting really popular. Maybe I could go out there and create a small series on my own interpretation of Zombie with a Shotgun. Of zombies. And I decided to name Zombie with a Shotgun again because it was catchy, and we all know about Hobo with a Shotgun. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it be more crazier if we had something called Zombie with a Shotgun? And what I wanted to do was the point of view of the zombie. I was tired of seeing the same old stories, same old survival stories. And, a lot of them are good. It's just that I feel that we haven't evolved in the zombie series. It stayed from back in how many years, we like to call, the Night of the Living Dead as being like the forerunner of creating this whole zombie craze, even though there were zombie movies before, but that was the film that commercialized and brought it to life and making everybody, having this zombie be part of American pop culture. And I just feel like it hasn't evolved from there. The only time that I feel like it had evolved is when they did Thriller with Michael Jackson, when he was this kick-ass zombie.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since then, they just left it there and never went nowhere. And I like to tell people, I take it from there and I evolve it from where Michael Jackson was trying to go for, John Landis, of trying to create this whole zombie, having its own thoughts and beliefs and just having sort of, having the same characteristics of what a human can do, but from the outside looking like a zombie. And I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this whole Zombie with a Shotgun, the point of view of a zombie, of a person who's infected with the zombie and is able to, have heart, whatever you want to call it, he's able to communicate, be able to do things. He has super special abilities. We find out that he is a unique character, a unique zombie. And as the story goes on, like I said, we did 5 episodes, and then from there, we started on the comic book, and then we was like, hey, you know what? Let's go for the feature. So we shot the feature over the summer. We're in post-production, and hopefully early spring we'll have a release, and everyone will be able to see more of what this story is all about.
I watched the 5-part miniseries. I really liked it. I liked how you really focused a lot on the characters and from the point of view of a guy who was infected by the zombie virus and how he reacted to it, how his girlfriend interacted with him. And it was a lot different from the normal kind of zombie thing where it's all blood and gore. This had a lot of character development, I thought. I really enjoyed that.
And it's interesting that you say that because that was a lot of the sort of complaints that came after the series. Of course, being we're not having the funds that we wish we could be able to have. The film. So we went with a lot of camera work and atmospheric stuff and lighting and stuff like that. But the gore was one of the problems. People say, "Hey, where's the gore?" There's no gore, and it's so funny because we're so used to seeing zombie films, blood, shoot 'em up, and all that stuff. And in this one, you didn't see it, especially with a title that has a Zombie with a Shotgun. And I understand that. But the whole, having that title was so important to catch people, their attention to watch this project. And I think that's what actually made people like it, where they said, hey, this is not like the same zombie projects that we see, that we usually see, but there's something to it. It's different, and I like it. And it just caught on.
Plus, people want to see gore. There are so many zombie things out there, like you were saying. So it's nice to see something a little different, something a little more creative, and more character development, and even just taking zombies in a different direction, somebody with a little bit more intelligence. Like, what was the movie? I think it was Day of the Dead, where they actually were trying to teach zombies how to do things, and at one point at the end, one of them starts to use a gun. I thought that was kind of cool. So your series kind of reminds me of that a little bit, just taking it a little further than we're used to.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I was just so, I was fortunate to be able to have this project to continue through the fans. Through the small fan base that I have, that it's still growing, and just I felt that they're a big reason why that this zombie with a shotgun keeps on going. And I was, again, 4 years ago, I didn't think that it would take off as it is right now. It's pretty amazing. It's amazing support. And again, I was thrilled when I was able to shoot a feature, to be able to see more of the vision, more of the characters, and more what the story is really all about. And now, we'll have an opportunity, and hopefully we can grow from there.
What shows or movies or comic books would you say influenced Zombie with a Shotgun the most?
Growing up, I was a huge Spider-Man fan. I mean, I think that goes like majority of everybody, right? Everyone's like a huge Spider-Man, but I was a really huge Spider-Man fan. So a lot of the stuff that, I was big into that whole, Spider-Man and all the different types of Marvel. I was such a big Marvel head, even though I did like DC, but I was such a big Marvel head. I liked all the characters. I was more into that whole Secret Wars and encyclopedia kind of thing of the characters and who they were and everything. I don't think there was any particular comic that inspired me. I think they all do. I mean, the fact that I grew up with the comic book world when it was really big, and I don't think there's anything particular that really inspired me. But I would have to say that if anything did, it was just growing up with the whole Spider-Man, the whole thing, and what inspired me to create a comic book. Yes, it's definitely Spider-Man. It's something that I always said, hey, I wish I can create a comic book with a character that can live on and can tell stories forever. And that was something definitely I say inspired. Spider-Man was definitely the comic book that would say I wanted to do my own comic book. I wanted to do that. But again, years went by, and as I did this whole Zombie with a Shotgun, and I'll tell you, when I started 4 years ago, I really did not have the vision at that time to create a comic book, because I thought I was far-fetched from that. I was like, this was something that was not realistic. But again, I go back to what I said before, where the fans were really big part of it. That I was like, hey, you know what? This Zombie with a Shotgun does have a chance to be a comic book, something out there that people can look at, read, and see in the many stories that can continue. And it due a lot to the small web series that I've created. And that's awesome.
Well, what about movies? Were there any movies that inspired this idea?
I mean, I love all the time, It's a lot of films that I love. I don't know if there's any favorite movie that I can say that I love, but I definitely would have to say, looking back at the story, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. I think there's a James Cameron influence of Terminator and all that stuff, even when you look at it, the feel and everything like that, with a guy who's some sort of super zombie, super whatever you want to call him, and he's there and survive whenever, and I definitely would have to say you see that little flashes of that. So I would have to say James Cameron's work with the Terminators and all that stuff, and all the stuff that he's done definitely inspired me, and you could see it through the series a bit.
Talking about the movie version of Zombie with a Shotgun, is it going to follow the basic story of the comic and the miniseries, or is it going to deviate and kind of tell a different story, or how much of an adaptation is it going to be?
It has the same sort of storyline. You have this guy who is basically, on the run with his, with his love and his girl, and that you get to see the journey that they both have, and you get to, find out who they are, and it definitely brings up and elevates the series. It brings it to a whole new level. And, you know, it's parallel with the series and the feature. You know, it's the same sort of kind of feel, storyline, but of course, we had a much bigger budget, and we were able to tell the stories. Now, the comic book is a little bit different. The comic book, of course, you could get away with a lot of stuff, you know. For us to create the film adapted from the comic book, of course, would be a lot more of a budget. You know, we're talking about much, much, much more. But there are a lot of pieces of the comic book that's in the film. So that's cool. And we definitely look forward for the feature to be released and be able to catch another wave of fans and possible to cross over again, where we able to possibly get a bigger budget where we can definitely take the comic book and adapt it into the screen.
It's always cool when different stories have different medias that they kind of come out of. You get to see it from a slightly different perspective, done slightly different, and I always think that's kind of neat, knowing that it's a comic and a miniseries and now a movie. It's just telling the same story, only slightly differently, and seeing what you can do with a movie and how you have to adapt to a 2-hour kind of thing instead of increments of 15 minutes, or being able to tell a longer story kind of through comic books. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Looking at your IMDb page, it seems like you've got a lot of experience in filmmaking. It looks like you've worked as a writer, a director, a producer, just to name a few things. What inspired you to get involved in filmmaking?
You know, I grew up in a big family. It was pretty funny because I kind of grew up kind of like in a Brady Bunch kind of household. We had 3 boys, 3 girls, mom and dad. And we had somebody there that was kind of like our, maid that was there that, looked after us, cooked for us and everything. So it was pretty funny. I look at Brady Bunch, it's so funny. I'm sounding like old school, talking about Brady Bunch here. But, I'm pretty sure everybody knows. So we would go every weekend. We had 6, kids. I was the youngest. And so it's cool to be the youngest because you're able to see everything. When you're the oldest, you have to actually be, make sure that you're not exposed to like violence or exposed to like cursing in movies and whatever, nudity and all that stuff. But as of course, the old can never be subjected to like since I was the youngest, they're like, all right, we can't not watch this movie because you're the youngest. He's the oldest, and we have 5 other people that are older than you, and whatever. It's too bad that it's messed up that we can't watch this rated R movie because you're young. So what? Let's go watch it still. So as being young, the youngest, every weekend the cheapest sort of to take the family was to the movies because it was cheap at that time. Now it's like, especially in New York City, it's the most expensive ticket. Forget about it. You're going broke, So it's crazy. You're spending so much money now. But back then, it wasn't as crazy as it is now. It was the cheapest thing to do as a family. So every weekend we would go as a whole family to go to the movies. So that's what we do all the time. And then when we would come back, me and my brother and my cousin, he was 3 boys, 3 girls, we lived in the house, we would reenact the films all the time. It didn't matter what movie it was, we would reenact it. And it's so funny because my brother and my cousin always reminds me that they would like pretend that we would watch, and this is going to tell my age right now, Star Wars, right? Nice. Empire Strikes Back. They would play Luke Skywalker. One would play Luke Skywalker and one would play Darth Vader. And I wasn't allowed to play any character because I was young and I was stupid. But you know what they would say? You're our camera guy. You're the director. Just be the camera and just film us. And that was a way that they made it to seem like leave us alone. So I was this guy. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds cool. So I would pretend I have this camera and I would make the sounds, and I would go around. I was like, all right, go over here, over here. And it was so funny. We would do it all the time. And as I got older, I'm like, wait a minute. I want to be one of the guys on this. And then we got into Kung Fu movies. We would choreograph Kung Fu movies. And then after that, we were actually shooting them. And I was shooting them. With of course, the big doofy, first you had the VHS and the high 8 cameras and everything. We would actually shoot these things. And eventually they got older. and they went their ways, and I had my friends, and then we started doing our little movies. And I was so remembering being that young kid doing it. It grew and grew and grew, and that's what I always wanted to do. It just came naturally, like, dude, this is what I'm going to do. It was just so funny. That's how it started for me, being this little kid, whatever, 5, 6, 7 years old, to really going every year and saying, hey, you know what? It's so funny. I really want to do this. And that's my story of how I got into it.
That's awesome. So your brother and your cousin kind of inadvertently inspired you to become a filmmaker.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. And they always remind me. They were like, dude, it's so funny. They're like, I remember we should just, we didn't want you to, it's funny. I never told that story to anybody. It's the first time I ever told the story. That's really funny.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
What qualities do you think make a great film? And could you give us some examples of films that you would consider great?
Interesting. I think it's all chemistry. Number one thing, I think, we tend to forget that we see the movie, right? But we tend to forget as an audience or somebody that there's a team that's behind that set, behind the camera. And first of all, I would have to say, to make a great film, you need a great team. You need good chemistry. You need everybody to be on the same page, and you need everybody to believe in that story and that script as much as the director, the writer. You have to be on that same page. You have to be able to come in every day and have the same sort of, enthused about it. You have to say, I really believe in the script. And having that synergy working, that's number one. And then, of course, going in the film, of course, you need the good actors to, create the stories and everything for it to become magic, to come alive. And that's very, very, very important. If you have one, something that goes wrong, your film is not going to, and especially if you have someone that's not going to believe in your story as much as you do, it's not, you see it. You'll see it in the screen. You look and you know going in, watching at the final edit, you were like, this person was really in it, and you could still see, it. I love stories, horror and everything like that. And, having that, I think there's nothing like having that relationship spark in front of the screen. There's nothing like watching a film and you're watching these two characters that are so believable, and you see that they're so in love. And, something that comes in my mind right now, because this is a question you just jumped out at me, and I like I told you before, I like to freestyle, I like to flow on these questions as you tell me. What comes to me is like, the whole Conjuring. You had the Conjuring 1, you had the Conjuring 2, and you have, Patrick Wilson, and I feel so bad. I forget the lady's name. She's a big actress. And you watch part 1, and you knew that they were, husband and wife and everything like that. And when they brought it to part 2, it was so amazing because, you, as being horror fans, you had to watch part 1. Or not necessarily, but if you did watch part 1, part 2 was so amazing because it was so real. It felt like this was a couple, that they really loved each other. And you didn't even freaking question it. You didn't even question the fact that, this doesn't seem real, because it was so well done. The chemistry was so well done and great because of that chemistry of the two, the couple. Again, Patrick Wilson and the lady that, it was just amazing when at the end he goes and saves it and everything. You're not going to question that. You're like, wow, man, he's doing it for his woman. He loves him. But again, we all into the audience believes it because of that chemistry.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of having the people making the film creating their own world and story that just looks to the audience like it's just they're watching two people living their life.
Yeah. They are a Hollywood couple in this surreal world that we live in, this, alternative world that we live in, this imaginary world. They are this Hollywood couple that's there. It's amazing.
That's a good way of putting it. What advice would you give to someone who wants to try to start creating their own independent films?
It's funny, and I do get a question like this, and sometimes I forget to answer it in a full way, give it a full answer. I mean, first thing I like to tell people who wants to get into filmmaking, it's an art, and as an artist, you're going to be broke, and you have to love filmmaking. And you have to go out there to know that you're going to go and sacrifice to make your art, not caring that if you're going to make money or not. You know, if you're coming into the business or you're coming into this field just for the main, you know, I want to make money, it's not going to work. It's not. Because it takes a lot of years, sweat, tears to, you know, understand this field, to understand the game, to understand your flow. Everyone has their own sort of magic behind the camera, or the magic of directing, or the magic of writing. And it takes years to figure that out. So you could know, this is my style. You know, that's more like it. You have to, it takes a lot of years to know the style. And it gets frustrating after a while, and knowing that, you know, this is not what I thought. And then I've seen it a lot. I've seen it in many years of guys just leaving and saying, oh man, you know, I'm leaving the game because it's just difficult. I gotta go, and you know, and I'm like, dude, that's just how it is. It's an art, you know. How many artists that we know, painters and photographers and actors, that are struggling? It's the same thing. You know, you have to struggle in order, unless you have, you know, the pipeline. You know, you have the nepotism of having, you know, family members or friends that's going to put you on. But a person such as myself, I had nobody. You know, I had not one family member, no uncle, nobody with money to, you know, be able to say, hey, you know, I'm going to come here. You know what I mean? If, you know, for those guys, you know, it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle. And a lot of mistakes a lot of filmmakers do is they like to juggle a lot of ideas and not concentrate on one. And I can say that was a mistake that I've done in the past, that I've always juggled with so many ideas and projects, and I've jumped to project, not realizing that I've never paid attention to the last project that I did that can make that jump, you know, as I said before, a crossover. And I'd like to tell, my big advice is, take that one idea, that one project that you believe in, and work at it, and just work on it, and just keep on doing it, and just until you be able to make magic. Because again, you're the only one that's going to believe in it, and with that power of believing in it, you're going to get everyone else to believe in it with you. And that's how the whole magic gets creating. It's just believing in that one project. And I mean, I'm not to say that you're not allowed to do other projects, but just take that one baby project that you feel that can just keep on going and growing, and be able to one that you feel it's the one.
You really have to commit and believe in your art. It's a good way of putting it. It seems like nowadays with like Hollywood movies, everybody just, like, you'll see a movie with a really high budget and it looks nice, but it's the same thing over and over again. There's really no heart to it. And that's one of the things I like about B-movies and the independent films is, even if the film's not particularly great, you can tell that there was a lot of heart to it, and it was somebody's goal to make this movie, even if it wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, you nailed it. You know it's somebody's vision. And, you know, this is the conversation that I always have with fellow filmmakers. When you're able to get to the point that, okay, somebody's offering you these monies to do this film, you just say it's your project, it's your interpretation of whatever you want to do. Bringing that money in, and you start to get so many other people telling you how you should make your film. And a lot of times you can see that on the screen. It's not, you know, you don't see, you don't feel the heart of the project, because you have so many other hands in it telling you this is how you're supposed to do your film. So talking to other filmmakers, that's always the whole problem. Like, you know, you get $100,000 to do a film, and you can actually do a film, $100,000, the way you want to do it. Of course, it's a low budget. It's mostly a dialogue film or whatever. It's not going to be blow ups and everything. And then you have the opportunity to take let's say the $1 million film from the investors and everything. Of course, I would say maybe 9 out of 10 times somebody's going to say, I'm going to take the $1 million, because that could be the shot. But that $100,000 shot that you take is going to be more your vision, that $1 million. It's going to have that more heart and soul, and it's going to be more your baby than taking that $1 million. And that's the question, we always we always talk about. But unfortunately, that's what you have to take to move up the ladder. And I think in the beginning careers of filmmaking and at the end of careers of filmmaking, you're able to do that, your own magic. But in the middle, very difficult.
It seems nowadays with crowdfunding and things like that, the independent film industry is really kicking off. Do you think that there's a bright future for it, or do you think that kind of Hollywood's going to try to stomp that out?
No, I think that, the crowdfunding is great. Like, for example, with my film, I mean, of course, I wish I had more money, to raise. I tell this also to your audience who's listening to this podcast. Don't be discouraged going for a crowdfunding, because even as my big of a fan base, I never reached my goal, but I still did it. I was able to cut the corners and say, hey, look, hey guys, a lot of the guys like, dude, we can't do it, because you feel like you got to reach that goal. And I had a lot of guys like, oh, we didn't reach it, man. We're not going to do it. Let's do another. I said, no, we're still going to do it. We're going to be really creative. We're going to cut the corners. I'm going to create the story still with the monies we have, because, you keep on going. You're never going to make the movie. So I really feel like, Hollywood is all about the money. They're going to follow where the money goes. For example, if I raise like $5 or $10 million, Hollywood's going to be knocking on my door. Hey, what's up? You know what I mean? But for the low budget films like the one that I did, it's cool. The Hollywood is not going to really care about it. But there's gems that come out of those very intimate, small, independent, low-budget projects. You get that some magic comes out. And there's gems out there. It's great for us to see it, because we get to see the heart and soul of somebody put it in the project. And I think those projects will always be there. There's going to always be those awesome gems that Hollywood is never going to interfere with, because that's the project that only raised $30,000 or $40,000. They don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think as time goes by, you're going to see more and more crowdfunding, and you're going to see more budgets becoming more small as we start to see that, cameras and equipment is getting more cheaper to buy, programs is getting more talent is getting there, and I think we're going to see more of these gems. So I think it's here to stay.
There's a great quote by a philosopher named G.K. Chesterton that goes, "Art is limitation. The essence of a painting is its frame." And what that basically means is, if you're limited in what you have, you're forced to be more creative. You're forced to use the resources you have as great as you can. And I definitely see in a lot of indie films people using limited resources in creative ways to tell better stories. So I definitely think there is something to having less money. Obviously, if you have no money, it's a little harder to do things. But, yeah, definitely more heart and more creativity when you have less, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have one last question. We ask this with every interview we have. It's a bit strange, but what is your opinion on hairless cats?
What? Hairless what?
On hairless cats. Do you find them cute? Would you choose one over a normal cat? Or do you find them disturbing in any way?
What is this? Is there something into this question that I have to go online? There's a meaning to it?
Yeah, Corey and I, for some reason, we have this debate. Should we ask everybody this?
Really? That's very interesting.
It kind of became a theme going on. Now we're like, what do people really think about hairless cats? Because he loves them. I'm not as much of a fan.
Well, okay. Well, here's an interesting thing that I'm going to tell you. First of all, I am a cat lover. You got dog lovers, you got cat lovers. I'm more of a cat lover. So asking me a question about a cat, I'm going to be like, the hairless cats, I have no problem with them, because, I am a cat lover. I prefer cats than dogs, even though I have 2 Siberian Huskies that are like, or kind of like rule the household. And, I have 2 cats and I have 2 dogs. And the dogs rule, of course, the house and everything, because they're Siberian Huskies and they have more of the animalistic kind of ways of running around the house. But I do like them, and I think they're cute. I mean, I love cats, man. They're cool to me, man. And not to say I hate dogs, but I prefer them over dogs.
Yeah, they say that when a person has a dog, they own the dog, but when they have a cat, the cat owns them. I love both cats. They do say dogs, that, but hairless cats, there's something. They just look odd to me, like something went wrong, like people experimented too much with them. I mean, I love all animals. I've never treated one bad, but I just feel like humanity messing with nature too much.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it comes down to the question, are you a cat lover or are you a dog lover? And obviously, if you're more of a dog lover, you're going to be like, because, that's usually what you get. That's the answer you're going to get. And again, I do love dogs. I mean, it's funny because the dogs love me to death, and the cats do too, which is so funny in the house. They just love me. Out of everybody in the household, they're crazy about me. And it's just so weird. And also how I have them all set up is just weird. The cats are so petrified by the dogs, and it's like sucks because I can't be able to give them attention.
I had one cat a few years ago who actually the dogs were afraid of it. Like, she was a bit older. She was about 13 at the time when we got the dogs, and whenever the dogs would try to bother her, she'd just smack them in the face, and they were petrified.
Yeah.
It was great.
Growing up, I had a Rottweiler, and I had 2 cats, and it was so funny because this Rottweiler that I had, right, she was beautiful, tough. She was a great guard dog. Anybody came by, and we had a big yard, we had a big fence. Anybody came even near the fence, come right out. It was amazing. Nobody would come into the house because this dog was just an amazing guard dog. You come home, the 2 cats, the dog runs into the laundry, hides to the cat. It was just hilarious. It was just so funny how my 2 cats growing up ruled this big Rottweiler, and no one would know, and I think it would be embarrassed if we would just mention it. But outside, everyone was so frightened of this dog, and it was just so weird, and I just couldn't understand that. I'm like, this dog is just so damn freaking tough, and then that was the name. It was actually named Tuffy also because the dog was so tough, and it was just guard dog, and but the cats, it was just run away.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I've seen both sides, and now that I have these 2 huskies, my 2 cats just are so scared. Sometimes I don't see them for like a day because they're hiding under the bed, and I'm like, damn, this must have been this was a bad idea. I didn't think this was going to happen because how I grew up but it's the breed, I should have read up more on the breed, but it's funny because the 2 huskies, like one of them wants to like play with it and everything. I feel so bad because the cats run away and he just looks at it like, nobody's running away from me.
Cool.
We end up talking about cats and dogs, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's how most of my conversations end. Like I'm a big animal guy, so like half my conversations are about like, what do you think of this? I got an animal, so yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean.
So where can we follow you to find out more about Zombie with a Shotgun and the process and the movie process?
As we're still raising monies for post-production, so if anyone's interested to go out and see the perks, the rewards, or whatever you want to call them. I mean, everyone has different names of calling them, from Indiegogo and all that, and Kickstarter and all that stuff. But we're in GoFundMe.com/Zombie with a Shotgun. Check it out. If you love the concept, you get to see some images, videos, and we need help still raising for post-production. If you want to follow like in a daily basis of updates or weekly basis, we're also on Twitter. Just search Twitter, Zombie with a Shotgun. You'll see us there. Follow us. We'll follow you back. We follow everybody back. If you want to check out the videos, the series, we're both in Vimeo and in YouTube, and they both, are .com/Zombie with a Shotgun on both of them. So if somebody's more of a Vimeo, you put Vimeo.com/Zombie with a Shotgun, YouTube.com/Zombie with a Shotgun. You could also check out our site, ZombieWithAShotgun.com. Go directly to Tumblr. You'll be able to see the stuff that's going on, the comic book that we're developing and everything like that. You get to see some sneak peeks of panels and images and stuff like that, posters and all the good stuff.
Sounds good. So you heard it here, folks. Zombie with a Shotgun. Hilton, thank you for joining us on our show. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yep. All right. We hope to have you on the show again. When the film's over, we'd love to have you on again to tell us about the process of making it, maybe tell a few stories.
Absolutely. I would love to.
All right, perfect. If you have an independent film you're working on and would like to discuss it, you can email us at bmoviebros@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at bmoviebros or my personal Twitter account at bmoviepaul. Don't forget to listen to our podcast where Corey and I review a different B-movie every week. New episodes every Friday on our website, bmoviebros.com. If you have a movie you'd like us to review or any additional comments, feel free to leave a message below. This has been another B-Movie interview. I'm your host, B-Movie Paul, saying be brave, be bold, and be back next time.